Hey book friends, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we are going to chat a bit about books that contain friendship. So the reason I am making this video is because it is one of the prompts for my year-long reading challenge that I'm running here on YouTube as well as Discord. So please go join that if you are interested. But the February prompt is a book with a friendship theme, which I love books with friendships. And I feel like February is, the month of love and all that stuff. And I love a good romance book, but I find that friendship books are more impactful for me. I really enjoy books where people come together and they choose each other. It's like their friends are their people, you know what I mean? And so I have picked out some books off of my shelves that have this theme that I want to recommend to you in case you are participating in the book club. Here are some ideas. And at the end of the video, I will share the book that I'm choosing for myself for the prompt, in case you want to buddy read it with me, because we also have that aspect to the Discord group. So let's just hop into all the books about friendship. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you've been coming for a while. So like I said, this is a book recommendations video about books that contain friendship. And so upon looking at my shelves, honestly, I feel like it's easier to find one, friendships that turn into a relationship, or two, books that are more about family. And I agree, family can be some of the best friendships, but that's not what I was aiming for when I wrote this prompt. I was aiming for more of that found family, those deep friendships that develop over time through circumstances and different things like that. And I have found some great books to recommend to you today from a lot of different genres, so you can kind of pick depending on what you're in the mood for. So let me start with some middle grade books that have friendship themes. And actually, honestly, the middle grade genre has a lot of friendship themes in it, which I just really appreciate about middle grade. But one of my favorites is this book. So it's Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. You guys, this is a fantastic middle grade book about this girl named Morgan who has been deemed a cursed child in her village, and she's just the reason that all the things are going wrong. And it has been said that by her 11th birthday, she will be killed for the fact that she is a cursed child, right? But then come her 11th birthday, she gets whisked away to this place called Nevermore by this man named Jupiter North, who's a great character, by the way. I love Jupiter's character. And she gets pulled into this world of magic, this magic school, this place where kids have these giftings, these natural talents that the school is then involved in nurturing and growing their talents and things like that. In this first book, it's more of a competition to prove that they are worthy to get into this school. And Morgan goes through all of these different trials and all these things, and she's put into this group. And that is probably why this book sticks out in my head, is it's this group of kids. It's almost this class. Like, they travel through their time in this school together. They have their special train for just their unit, all of these things. And there's definitely some conflict, and there's some things that happen within the group, or just to Morgan in general. But the friendships she makes with her classmates in this group are just wonderful. They're wonderful. And what I like about this book in particular is that at this point, at least in the series, there's no romance of any kind. There's no like crushes or anything like that. It's just friendships, and they're really sweet, and it's fantastic. And there's also the wonderful relationship between Jupiter North, her mentor, and her. That's not really a friendship relationship, but that's a good one too. So I highly recommend this series if you haven't started it. There's 3 books out. The 4th one's coming this year. So Nevermore's a good option for a friendship theme, as well as Harry Potter. Let's be honest, this came to my mind first, actually, was Harry Potter. Harry Potter has very strong friendship themes in here, especially you have Harry, Ron, Hermione, who go through all of these adventures, who go through so many hardships through all 7 books. And their friendship is just such a central part of this book, especially for a character such as Harry, who is an orphan who grew up in just a terrible place with his aunt and uncle. And he then comes to this school, which shows him what friendship and family can be like. And there's just, it's just so sweet in so many ways. And the friendship theme is very strong in here. So I recommend Harry Potter if you haven't picked it up. It's enjoyable as an adult as well as a child. Okay, so next I have my fantasy, and then I'll move into historical fiction. So some fantasy slash science fiction, because I realize this is actually science fiction. Red Rising. Okay, I just finished the series last year. It made it to my top books of the year. And one of the things I loved about it was its friendship theme. So it is more of like a rebellion book, and there's some gory things in here. So it's not a light and fluffy friendship book, but the themes of friendship are very strong here. And the character attachment was really what made this book so impactful, this whole series so impactful for me. And so this has to do with a man named Darrow who lives on Mars. He's part of the Red class, which on Mars there's a hierarchy, and it's based on colors, red being the lowest, gold being the highest. And throughout some things that happen in the beginning of this book, he wants to kind of fight back and seek justice against the golds. And that is really what he is pursuing throughout these books. What I found amazing was the character work, was the friendships that he develops in this first book, which I don't want to give away too much because I found this book a little surprising when I first read it. I didn't know it was going to go the direction it went, but I loved the direction it went. I love the friends he made in this book, and I love how they tracked with him for the rest of the books. The attachment these characters have to each other and how they always have each other's backs is very strong in this book. So if you want a friendship themed book that takes it that direction, I highly recommend Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Okay, another first book in a trilogy that I feel like has some of the best friendship themes is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. So I really appreciate Brandon Sanderson's writing. So granted, I haven't read too much of his stuff, but what I found so endearing about these books is there wasn't really too much romance. There was a little bit, but it is very mild in comparison to a lot of other fantasy books. And it is a lot more about this group of friends. Well, this group of people who come together and become friends. The central theme in this book is the idea that the bad guy actually wins in the end. And he is called the Lord Ruler, and he has been ruling for thousands of years and oppressing the people and things like that. And the book is about pushing back against that. And there's this man named Kelsier who forms this group of people who are going to fight back and take down the Lord Ruler. And there is definitely a magic system in this book that has to do with harnessing the power of metals, like ingesting different metals, and that give that person certain powers. And some people can use all the metals, and they're called Mistborns. And that's the basic idea of the premise. But this book came to mind when I was thinking friendship because of the group of people who are working together to push back against the Lord Ruler. And it's so good. So good. And I mean, this is the first book in a trilogy, and they're pretty large books, so it goes a lot of different ways, but I appreciate the relationship between all the characters throughout all three books as well. So I really like this one. And the last fantasy book I want to recommend is just a classic that I've loved for a long time, and that's Lord of the Rings. And I have a copy up there, but I just forgot to grab it down. But the whole trilogy, starting with the Fellowship of the Rings all the way through, is really about, again, a band of people who come together for a bigger goal. I loved it. I loved the Fellowship. I love especially the little hobbits and the hobbit relationship with each other. Even though throughout the story they kind of go in different directions, they always come back. And the relationship between Frodo and Sam is just, it's such a good friendship story. Now, you have to be prepared for the style of writing in The Lord of the Rings and the amount of detail, but the friendship theme really pulled me in and kept me very invested, and it has made it one of my favorite books, trilogies of all time. So I recommend that if you haven't read it. It's so good. But to move on to historical fiction. So I have 3 historical fiction to share with you. These are some of my favorites because I love good characters. The first one I want to talk about is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. It's been a couple years since I've read this, but this book is so interesting and so good, and I didn't think I was going to like it when I first picked it up. It's about this count who in the early 1920s has been put under house arrest in the Hotel Metropole in Moscow, right across from the Kremlin, and he is basically not allowed to set foot out of the hotel or he will be arrested. And so he has to live his life in this hotel. And part of me thought that would be boring, like what could happen. But a lot of things happen, and a lot of them are more character driven. You really get to know the Count. I found his inner monologue and the way he thought through things very entertaining. I found his up and down journey through what was going on very entertaining. But the best parts were his interaction with all the different people within the hotel, like the chef or the people who run the front desk, as well as people who come there on the regular. And eventually there is this little girl, and he watches her grow up. He very much interacts with her. It's just so sweet. And really, all of the relationships are friendship driven. There's no love interest, there's none of that. And so it just makes that kind of interaction between humans so beautiful. So if you haven't tried an Amor Tolls, I love this book. It's not for everybody, but I highly recommend giving it a shot if you haven't yet. Okay, though, this one, so good. So this is The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. You guys, this is all about friendship. So it is a book about the traveling library set in Kentucky. Is this one in Kentucky? Yes, set in Kentucky, about these women who take horses, pack horses up into the mountains to provide books for low-income families or illiterate families who can't get into town to get books. It really was a beautiful program. What makes this book so interesting is the fact that these were women who were getting on horseback and going into the mountains, and the friendship they had together, because really they were pushing a bit against society to do this. So this wasn't a normal thing for women to do during this time frame. And so they had kind of a commonality, a common bond because of that, because of their passion for what they were doing. They knew it mattered, and they had to kind of push against the norms to do it, formed these just tight friendships that were just so beautiful. And some of the things that happened to the women in this book, so good. I was so invested. So I loved this one. Another one, and I realized this is more of a young adult book, or I don't think this is middle grade. I think it's more young adult, is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. Such an amazing book. It's about this girl during World War II in Nazi Germany. She has lost her family, and she moves in with a foster family who is a German couple who live in Germany who do not necessarily agree with the Nazi regime, and they do some things with that. But why this book came as a friendship theme was a couple different things. One, there's this neighborhood boy that she really gets to know and who is just a lifelong friend for her. And then there's also this man that's involved with the plot as well. I don't want to say too much, but she befriends him, and it's just a beautiful friendship. And the story in and of itself is fantastic. Like, she is kind of doing her part to push back against kind of the Nazis by like stealing books that are being banned, that are being taken away. And so she's being brave in that way. And I know I'm not doing justice for this book. It's so good, and it has such central themes of friendship, and it's beautiful. If you have not read this, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. It's so good. I should reread it. Now it's making me want to reread it. And then the last book I don't have a copy of. I got it from the library years ago, but it has stuck with me, and it's Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. This was the first Kristen Hanna book I ever read, and it definitely got me into her writing. And this is a book about friendship. So it's about two friends, Kate and Tully. So you can see it's been ages since I've read it, but I still remember their names. And they form this unlikely friendship kind of early on in life, like as 8-year-olds or in middle school, something like that. Like, Kate is more ordinary, down to earth, and Tully is more like, I want to prove myself, and she wants to become an actress and become influential and all of these things. And so they form a friendship which makes them inseparable, and then they go through life together with ups and downs, some terrible things that happen, but it really is about their friendship and how their love for each other changes their life, really. And it's so beautiful. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I have the second one on my shelves up there, but I haven't read that one yet. So those are the ones I have read and I recommend that have just amazing friendship themes. As for what I want to read, my hopes are that this book has solid friendship themes, and I believe it does. I got the recommendation from April from Getting Hugga With It. I get a lot of my historical fiction recommendations off of her channel, but it is a single thread by Tracy. I'll put it up here, and I just ordered it off of Pango. I love Pango. And so what it sounds like this book is about is it's a post-World War I book. So I think it's set in the 30s. And it's a woman who lost her family during World War I, maybe her fiance, not quite sure. Anyway, she's part of what's called like surplus women, which is this idea that they don't have a place in society. They're like spinsters. They're now single. They don't have the ties of family because of the war. And it sounds like in light of that, she joins this group of other women, other surplus women who get together, and they're involved in some sort of embroidery or sewing project for the cathedral, I believe, for like the church. And it sounds like it's about these women doing life together, sharing life, forming tight friendships, and maybe even going into the time of like World War II. Although I'm not sure about that. I really don't know. I just trust April's opinion on World War II historical fiction, and that sounds more like it's about the friendship than about the war. So, not sure, but I'm going to read that. So, if you want to join me in February, I'm going to be reading A Single Thread by Tracy Chevalier. So, anyway, that wraps up my recommendations as well as my plans for what book I'm going to read with a strong friendship theme. I hope you like this video. I hope you like this kind of very specific book recommendation type video. And I hope you join us. Join us in Discord. It's been a really fun community so far. I've been really enjoying it. So join us if you want to. But otherwise, guys, that's what I have for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you want to. And I'll see you in the next book video. All right, take care. Bye.